6 brutal dictators the United States secretly supported. 1. Hosni Mubarak, Egypt. In 1967, Egypt went to war with Israel. In 1973, it joined other Arab states in launching another. Decades of hostilities ended with a peace treaty in 1979. The U.S. considered it a great success, so Egypt automatically became a valuable ally. That's why American leaders supported it no matter what. In the 2000s, the U.S. was sending $1.3 billion in military aid to Egypt every year. President Hosni Mubarak's crimes were never mentioned. In 2011, a popular uprising against him began. He ordered his troops to kill the protesters. The U.S. refrained from condemning him. 12,000 people were arrested, and 846 were killed. After 18 days of the slaughter, Mubarak stepped down. He was tried and sentenced to life in prison. His successors haven't been any better though. The U.S. still provides aid to Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The current president practices enforced disappearances. His government abducts and tortures children as young as 12. But Egypt isn't a lie, so it still gets American weapons. 2. Augusto Pinochet, Chile. Chile elected a socialist president, Salvador Allende, in 1970. The U.S. was worried Chile would become pro-Soviet, so the CIA began supporting rebel groups to oust Allende. In 1973, Chilean General Augusto Pinochet staged a coup. Allende was murdered, and Pinochet took the reins. He ruled Chile until 1990 as a military dictator. Under his rule, abductions and torture were common. Pinochet had all suspected communist sympathizers executed. He set up torture camps to extract information. The U.S. never explicitly spoke out in his support, but declassified documents revealed that he enjoyed its full support. In fact, the CIA encouraged him to set up the camps. 3. Islam Karimov, Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan was a Central Asian republic of the Soviet Union. Karimov became its leader even before independence in 1989. Uzbekistan became a sovereign state in 1991. Karimov soon turned the entire country into a prison camp. His reign of terror lasted until his death in 2016. Hundreds of thousands were killed or imprisoned. Forced labor was mandatory, and it began at school. Uzbekistanis were not allowed to leave the country. Torture and summary executions became the norm. Execution methods included drowning and boiling alive. But Uzbekistan occupies a strategic location close to Afghanistan. In 2001, Karimov was quick to support George W. Bush's war on terror. This earned him $500 million a year in American aid. $79 million of this money went to funding his security services. This was secured after Karimov's visit to Washington, D.C. His police state grew stronger than ever. His people lived in abject poverty, harvesting cotton like slaves. Many were paid in food rations. Some of the aid programs are still being funded. 4, 5, and 6. Somoza family. Anastasio Somoza Garcia, Luis Somoza Debayle, Anastasio Somoza Debayle. This family of 3 successive dictators ruled Nicaragua for 43 years. In 1936, Anastasio Somoza Garcia established the family dictatorship. After his assassination in 1956, his sons took the reins. Their power was exercised through the National Guard. This paramilitary force terrorized the people of Nicaragua. They bombed civilian neighborhoods. They abducted, tortured, and murdered activists. Around 10,000 people were killed. Meanwhile, the Somozas amassed a fortune of $533 million. They pocketed foreign aid and ran a countrywide racket. Jimmy Carter pledged full support to the National Guard. The U.S. even smuggled Guard leaders on Red Cross planes. The Somoza rule was overthrown by a socialist uprising. Ronald Reagan then funded the pro-Somoza paramilitaries. He refused to provide aid to the new government after a devastating earthquake. Nicaragua is still authoritarian, only now it's ruled by socialist Daniel Ortega. He gets no support from the West.